All right, all of you freedom loving boys and girls, Mark Centerline Systems. Hey, whomever you are, wherever you are in this big blue marble of the planet we call Earth, insert drum roll. Welcome to the live stream. Hey, sometimes you got to shoot from the hip. And here's the dealio. The reason we're a little bit late, or I'm late coming on here tonight. Tonight was going to be our episode about VA healthcare. Chappie's had a lot of stuff going on. I got zero comms with him. And then Tom will probably still join us, but he's also been having some serious issues logging in here. Wow, it's almost, and no one's getting my emails. Yeah, there's just weirdness afoot. But so we're probably going to do a little bit of an audible, and that's all right because I got a bunch of other subjects to talk about, and I'm going to kind of roll into that just a little bit. Housekeeping. We'll see if we get Tom and Chappie, and if we do, we'll shoot from the hip and we'll go back to our main plan. If I don't get those guys, or if Tom has a hard time coming on, we'll do a modified live stream tonight. We'll still talk a little bit about that, but it'll be more giving you the heads up for what the future holds and how we're going to do this. All right. Looks like Tom may have just figured it out. Tom, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. Yeah, I got a thumbs up. All right. Just hang on there a second, Tom. Let me just kind of do my normal kind of just stall for a little bit. And let's see if Chappie joins us here too. All right, but so just some other things. So we're going to completely, as I'm kind of like killing a little bit of time, excuse me, and I also got a little bit of a cold developing. Here we got Gene, good evening. Learn me something. Hello. Snowshoe checking in. Brandon Sweeney, good evening, gents. Brandon, nice to see you over here. Cool TV. Shalom, David. And yeah, I hope you're doing well over there. All right. Hey, so here's the deal, boys and girls. I don't have the full picture yet, but I will have it by this time next week. So I'm changing all of my social media, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I'm going to start maybe doing a precursor next week, but I want to hear comments. You can leave comments in the live, but definitely leave comments in this video, whether you're watching live or on demand afterwards, because part of these dates and the structure is going to be contingent on what you, the great men and women who watch this, how you think. But here's kind of in a nutshell. I'm going to do a minimum of 2 gear videos a week. Excuse me. It still hurts to cough sometimes, but I'm going to do it in such a way. I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. So Saturdays, I usually work until about 1500. You know, everybody else is already still like waking up and recovering from Friday night or getting ready to go out, but I'm going to have a little bit of fun, and I might have a beer or a glass of wine, or mead, if you're one of the people who sent me mead or wine, freaking alcoholics trying to get me in trouble. But, and then I'm going to shoot probably 2 product videos separately, very short videos. So the product videos going forward are only going to be like 3 to 5 minutes, right? You know, 8 minutes top. They're going to be really short in that zone. Then, so there'll be 2 different things, and I'll try to usually find products where they kind of have a little bit of an overlap. They make sense with each other, or they go along with each other. And then and I'm not sure if the live streams are going to continue on Thursday, but these live streams are going to morph a little bit. I'm going to do one of them once a week, and I'm not sure if that should be Friday or Saturday. And that's going to be called CLS, Centerline Systems, CLS After Hours. And because with guests, you know, getting everybody to be able to do it this time, always on a Thursday, is a tough thing. So I might shoot some of those videos as just static videos of me and the guest whenever they're available. But then I'm going to show them as a live stream on either Friday or Saturday. I'll still be live. I'll just bring the video in and we'll all watch the video kind of together. So I'm still there to answer questions, you know, help go over things, you know, or whatever the case is. And I'll probably be having a drink, you know, and going along with it. But then another live stream is going to be a much shorter live stream. It's going to be 30 minutes long. I'm not sure if that's going to be Tuesday, or we've been doing Thursdays. Maybe we do keep these Thursday lives. And then if you've got nothing going on, or, you know, winter's right around the corner and you're sitting around bored, you know, maybe you just hang out, and that's what we do on a Friday. And then, you know, we've got a guest on, or I'm playing that interview that I had with a guest. Those will be still the longer videos, you know, hour long. So that's actually what I'm kind of thinking. And then on this video, it's going to be 30 minutes. And it's going to focus on, it's going to be more of a loadout video. So instead of doing the large, long, 30-minute loadout video, which takes some time. Oh, I think Chappie's here. This might be working out. Perfect. Yeah. Let me put my eyeballs on. I think Chappie made it. Oh, yeah. All right, boys and girls, we're back on track. Let me just, Chappie, give me a thumbs up. You can hear me. All right, boys, I'm just doing a little housekeeping. I was just trying to buy some time, hoping that you could make it. But then that loadout video. So I said, I'm going to do at least 2 product videos, 3 to 8 minute long videos, just kind of focused on one product, maybe a colorway, but just focused on one facet of that piece of gear. Then we'll do another video on a different piece of gear, but then I'll do kind of a loadout video on a live stream, a 30-minute live, and then you guys can ask questions, or that's when I'll go into more details. I've already had a couple people want me to do a loadout on a med kit. And so you see what I'm getting at already. Like, there's so many ways you could look at that. But if we sat in a live stream, I could show it off. I can talk about it. And then I can just give you my recommendations, the different types of med kits I'm carrying and why I'm carrying them, and then answer any questions that you might have around that. I'm not your doctor, but I got a little bit of experience on that. So that's what we're thinking. Gene's already saying 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, Gene, no joke. Leave that in the comment section. And by the way, Gene, thanks for and for everybody leaving comments in the videos. I see we got a couple haters on 1 or 2 videos. I don't get that. And then I'm going to shut up, and then I'm going to bring it over to the VA and bring in our guest. But if you're watching a video and you don't like it, why would you sit and continue watching the video? Like, if I don't like a video, I just stop watching it and I move on to something else. It never ceases to amaze me. Oh, I didn't like that video. Well, then why did you watch it? And no one cares that you didn't like it. Maybe I liked it. Someone else liked it. Like, even if you were like, the biggest name in whatever, and you're like, oh, I didn't like that video for whatever. Well, but so the other guy did. I mean, everybody's different. And that's going to kind of come up to play here in a little bit when we talk about VA healthcare. Everybody's different. So there can't be a cookie cutter to that. And if you don't like a video, then why don't you leave a comment and say why? And don't just be because, oh, Mark, you're an asshole. Okay, that's probably true, but that doesn't help us get better. That doesn't, tell everybody why this video could be better. If you're going to be a hater, then at least leave a constructive comment, otherwise, then why are you watching the video? It's making me laugh. That's the kind of day I'm having here today. And then Brandon saying, vote with your feet. Yeah, period. As we move forward. So again, next final comment, and then I'm bringing on our guests, and I'll talk about it at the end as well. But next Thursday's live stream, it's Halloween night. I'm going to try to follow that template already. So I already got 2 gear videos I'm going to shoot on Saturday. I'll post those probably Monday and Wednesday. Then the live stream still makes sense to do the gear live stream on Thursday for 30 minutes. And then we can talk about that. This Thanksgiving, it'll be a little bit of fun. I'm going to have a stupid costume on and some lights, and I might get me some gear. Ooh, cause it's trick or treat, right? So I got to have some kind of treat. But we're not going to start that kind of other version that, the more political, and tonight's not political, boys and girls. This is about stuff that, I don't want to steal Chappie's thunder. Chappie and I were talking about this not too long ago. And it's like, if ever I apologize, Chappie, even though you and I have had that conversation, but it was me and somebody else, a family member. This is not and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you come down. If you can't agree or find common ground on what we're going to talk about, veteran healthcare, there's no hope for you then at that point. If this is the most non-political, we have a contract, we swore an oath, and then our government, we the people, have the other side of the contract. And if we can't look out for that and honor those obligations, then what the heck's the point? Chappie, can I bring you on that one, sir? All right, bring it on, Chappie. All right, and then Tom must have went off and get a drink or something. Oh, he's back. I'll bring on Tom. Tom, you ready to come on? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready, Tom. Yep, gotcha. All right. Boys and girls, they've been on before. I'm looking forward to part 2 here tonight. But on that note, in case you didn't watch the video or don't remember, why don't we start with you, Chappie? Give everybody a little bit of background about yourself, why you're here tonight. We'll come down to you, Tom, and then we'll come and get things kicking.
Great to be back on, Mark. Really happy to be here. I am a United States veteran from the Navy back in 99 to 04. I did aerial reconnaissance for the Navy, working on F-14 and F-18 equipment. I'm here tonight because Mark's awesome, like everyone knows. He's got a big old mouth. beautiful mouth, and he's got a lot to say, but a lot of it resonates. Tom too. Tom's a beautiful mug down there. Sorry, it's been a day, so I'm a little frazzled, but I'm with it, man. I think it's an important topic. We had a little bit on this last time, and I think that one of the most sacred oaths that we have is taking care of our veterans after they serve, period. Whatever that looks like, they deserve the world. And like you said earlier, Mark, if we can't agree on that, then what the hell can we agree on?
There's probably no hope for us at that point. We might as well just like start our Glocks or let a race of aliens, armed with only pieces of wood with a nail in them from like that Simpson episode. And then they just become our masters. All right, Tom, quit moving the damn camera around, you old man. And what happened to your facial hair? What happened to your facial hair?
My wife
Which
wanted
one?
a younger man. So
she should have been trying to talk to Chappie then, because that still ain't doing it.
Well, I had to oblige her. She's been married to a couple different guys, and it's all been me. So
That's awesome.
Happy wife, happy life. Although
all right, hey,
if
you don't mind
to be.
Hey, Tom, if you don't mind, your volume's just a little off. You might be just a little bit too far away, or, but hey, well, that might be a little too close as well. Yeah,
better?
Your volume's still down just a little bit. And hey, somebody in the chat, if you can hear him good, because I had this problem a couple of weeks ago. I can hear everything right now, but Tom sounds like he's a little bit muted. But Tom, on that note, tell everybody a little bit about yourself if they don't, so that in case those who didn't watch it or don't remember who you are and why you're here tonight.
Sure. So I just retired from the VA. I was a nurse in primary care for 21 years, working at the Superior Community-Based Outpatient Clinic. I got my nursing. I spent 10 years in a combat support hospital as an intermediate care ward manager for the 114th Combat Support Hospital. And prior to that, I was in the 5501st 1,000-bed Army Hospital. 10 years in the Army, 6 years in the Air Force. Near the end, I got tired of walking and they had better food. So I finished up and I did 6 years as the non-commissioned officer in charge of public health for the 148th Fighter Wing. Yeah, and I get my care at the VA. I also pay for private insurance for my family. So I've got kind of an interesting window. So for 21 years of
Yeah, we may have just lost him. He'll come back though. I think he's just messing with his phone. No, now you're back.
There he is.
All right,
must have hit the button. But yeah, so for 21 years, I paid for civilian health insurance for my family, and I used VA health insurance primarily for both to just see how it goes from the patient side, and I think it's better healthcare than I get paying for private insurance.
All right, whatever you just did, everybody, a couple people came in and said they could hear you, but on my end, how you turned your head or whatever you just hit, that sounded a lot louder.
Okay.
Yeah, you're sounding really good there.
Okay.
All right. So Tom and Chappie, with your guys' permission, I think Tom's comment isn't a bad place to start, Chappie. I know you and I've got some specific things we want to talk about, and I think that'll be good for the bottom half of the hour. But in the right now, maybe a place to start on this is, because again, someone's saying, oh, here we go. It's about to get political. Chappie and I don't agree on everything politics. Tom and I don't agree on everything politics. And you and I, whoever's watching, we don't agree on everything political, right? And nor should we don't have to, but we should be able to compromise. And the direction we're going here, and I'm trying to get myself worked up to tell my story, but it has to do with VA healthcare. Now, you could turn that into politics and say that, it's the government, and that's a great indicator of what you get from a government running something. Yeah, there's probably some truth in that. That's not necessarily my thrust of my argument or what I want to talk about. I don't care, because it's the government, and the government is made up of we the people. And sometimes it's Democrats in charge, and sometimes it's Republicans in charge. But you know who's always in charge? We the people. So if this stuff is broken, who's really to blame? We the people. My ultimate goal isn't to sit and whine about my specific situation, but I'm willing to do that tonight. Well, I don't think it's whining. You can tell I'm trying to not get too angry. It's very personal, but it's not whining. It's a system is broken, and we're doing a huge disservice to the men and women who, for whatever stupid reason, we raised our right hand and we signed a contract. I'm willing to have these horrible things happen to me. And I'm here, boys and girls. If you aren't a veteran or if you don't have any veterans in your life, go start talking to some veterans. And if you are a veteran, in the chat or leave a comment and share this with veterans, because yeah, you might get some people who are going to disagree with me, Tom, and Chappie, but it's going to be very few. At the end of the day, we're idiots. We're either romantic, whatever reason we didn't raise our right hands for money, because Lord knows if you've been in the military, although, nowadays maybe it's different, but it's a contract. Death is, the ultimate sacrifice, but it's not just there and it doesn't end there, right? It's drug addictions. It's, or maybe you want to call that substance abuse. It's familial issues, right? Divorce, spouse. It's psychological issues. The trauma is there and it's real and it can manifest itself in all kinds of forms. And not everybody has to be a Delta Force ninja cyborg assassin, kicking in doors every day of the week, because shit happens by its nature. If the military is left to it, what it's designed to do, it's a dangerous effing world by its very nature. Even in peacetime, shit tons of people die. Shit tons of people have all kinds of other traumas that affect them. And we, the people, signed a contract. And boys, this is where I'm going to shut up and turn it over to Chappie. We signed a contract with these knuckleheads, these romantics, these idealists who are, the 1% who was willing to raise their hand and subject themselves to this. We've got to uphold that end of the bargain. Chappie?
I don't know where to even continue with that, Mark. I feel that it resonates so well with the population that I interact with daily. I'll just plug that I work after serving. I began a journey into holistic healthcare, and my big goal right now is to provide as many outdoor opportunities on the Arizona Trail as possible, as a means of bridging the gap of what we are not receiving through the VA, because we are being overprescribed and have been for some time now. And it's a constant theme with these individuals that I now serve and have the pleasure of serving, that are prior servicemen and women, that they don't want to take any more prescriptions. They want connection, camaraderie, community. They want holistic healthcare. They want a path to getting better. And I'm honored again to be that person in the room this afternoon or this evening with all of you folks. But I feel like I should not have to convince others, especially in the healthcare community, that spending time outside or finding holistic opportunities after serving should be the first line of defense when it comes to mental health care, when it comes to physical health care. And prescriptions have a place maybe down the road, but the first line of defense, the first thing that they should be trying to do with transition services is connecting those men and women with me or people like me. And if you can't agree on that, then again, I feel like that is something that's a non-starter for me when it comes to conversation. I'm willing to have, like you said earlier, Mark, I may not be someone's cup of tea or have the same opinion, but that's what makes America America. We are all different. We're all individuals. We all can have our own fucking opinion. Excuse my language, but it's the truth. It's what it is. We need to learn how to compromise. We need to learn how to have conversations. We need to stop thinking that, because of your political ideology or affiliation, you cannot have a conversation with someone. That is absolutely not the way we need to go. We are built to connect with one another. We are built to be in a state of conversation all the time. For lack of a better word, we're a tribe. We're all trying to, I think in a lot of ways, and maybe because I'm a romantic and an idealist, I want to see us all going in a positive direction. I feel like humanity can still be saved, salvaged, and retooled for the better, because we're capable of doing so.
Yeah, amen. Yep. But and I'm going to bring it to Tom on that one, but just on a personal level, what touched me about what you just said is, look, that is a romantic and idealist, right? And maybe that's, again, we're all veterans. Maybe that's one of our common denominators. But to your point, my good man, we're never going to achieve that if we can't even honor these most basic and most sacred of oaths, right? How are we going to do that with just our normal citizenry? If we, because you've got to have a love. Your love and your respect and your humanity has to be deep, right? It's got to be strong. And if you can't do that for the boys and girls that, made sure you could be in your hot tub over the weekend, frying hamburgers or whatever, and you don't give a shit and you just want to piss on their memory, well, then how are you going to do that for anybody else in your society except you? My argument would be you're incapable of that. And that's sad. And I feel bad for that person.
Yeah.
Tom, you kind of see where we're going on this? You want to continue and add your opinions to that, sir?
Well, I guess I really like we're talking about a lot of different things. I'm involved in politics probably more than I'd like sometimes. The last 2/3 of my time at the VA, I was involved with American Federation of Government Employees as a union activist. And I spend a week in Washington every year lobbying Congress, usually related to employment issues based at the VA. So the VA's medical treatment issues are just as important. So, I don't think this is a party political issue as far as politics are concerned. I do think that there is a huge lack of logical, rational reasoning involved in medicine these days. I don't see, even the VA has tried, to Chappie's comments about a holistic approach or a natural approach. I'm a nurse, so my practice in medicine is about viewing people as a person. A doctor's approach to medicine this is kind of the way they're trained. Doctors trained with a physiological intervention for a physiological change. That's why they used chemicals primarily as their means of changing a person's health, or surgery to intervene. Nursing is a different view on that, which takes into account all of the whole patient, or the patient as a person, and the spiritual aspect, the physical aspect, the emotional aspect. And the VA started to try and implement some of that about 10 years ago, just like they tried 20 years ago to implement what they called patient-aligned care teams, which was a different model of medical practice started in the 70s, where care is supposed to evolve around what the patient needs rather than what the system can provide as a group. Both have been underfunded. They spent $10 million. They had $500 million actually to invest in it. And they just, in 2 administrations, it just fell by the wayside. And
Chappie, you seem like you might have a personal experience with that, Chappie. You kind of got excited and, maybe looked like you might want to interject there.
Well, I think more to what Tom was saying, just more in agreement, because I feel like, again, this goes back to, I know this is not supposed to be political, but the bipartisan view of veteran and military in general makes it non-political in a lot of ways. But it seems to be this, let's talk about it, let's make it look good, and then it falls to the wayside once they either become elected or whatever stop or measure that comes up that just does not allow it to pass. It's like we're again, like, I know going back to just saying this shit out loud just makes me giggle, because I know that in essence, when we sign up, we're pawns, and then then we become political pawns under the right circumstances when politics are involved. And it makes me sick, because I don't really give a shit who is elected. I just want them to take care of us. I want them to actually fulfill their oath because they take one just the same way we did when they go into office, that they will support, defend,
Yeah.
and look after their citizenry. And who more important that has actually protected those freedoms than its military personnel?
Hey, the only thing, and I'm not disagreeing, is that's everything you said at the beginning of your commentary. I'm like, yeah, that still sounds pretty bipartisan to me. Politicians, they, once it doesn't matter. The both sides of the same bird. They'll say the same shit. They'll say give us the same platitudes. And to your point, I mean, and this is why I'm saying it's bipartisan. Can you think of a single administration, Republican or Democrat, that's actually said it and made good on their word to really renovate and change the VA healthcare system? I mean, that's a solid question for anybody watching, whether you're watching this on demand or right now, or with our guests.
Someone Google that, because I feel like that's a great question. But I think just thinking about just doing my own homework, I don't believe so in any meaningful way, other than maybe like 1960s, 70s after Vietnam. But at the same time, I don't feel like even that was enough. It seems like the wheels turned very slowly and are continuing to turn. Like you said, Tom talked about 10 years ago, I believe, they started, it's called the whole health approach, or coined that phrase with the VA, which is kind of inviting in alternative medicines, which, we're talking very base level stuff like yoga, or maybe acupuncture, or some other new age stuff.
They're still not doing any of that.
Not enough. It's not enough, because we can go into this. Maybe this is something you're going to allude to, but then we'll talk about alternative medicines like we have on the last one, and how beneficial that has become to our community, even though it's not necessarily endorsed by the VA.
Yep. Tom, this is actually more your wheelhouse, and this wasn't set up, boys and girls, but we got just two great, freaking, a right-hander and a left-hander. They can both throw the ball, 100 miles an hour. They both hit home runs. However, what analogy you want to use. But Tom, this is a little bit more your background. You've been in that system a long time. You're out of it now, and you're on that political side trying to do good stuff for, veteran awareness and trying to make a difference, with the politicians. Can you address what Chappie and I were just saying with more detail? Can you provide a little bit more insight on that?
So from the political side, I worked for 2 Republican administrations and 2 Democrat administrations. And so, of course, with every new administration, they get to pick a secretary of the VA. And
I can still hear you. I just got to go to the backside, but I can still hear you.
It's a huge budget, $260 billion that is spent, and the VA gets about 170. And a good portion of that goes to pay for disability, and about 70 to 100, maybe $95 billion goes to pay for healthcare. And, there's been two trains of thoughts in medicine, providing medicine through the VA. And one has been that privatization is going to yield more care per dollar spent. And the other version is that only the VA can do veterans like they do. After Vietnam, I would say that the VA was so broken. A friend of mine's father, my hunting partner, he got 2 Silver Stars in Vietnam. He was a ranger over there. And he was so disappointed with the VA, became a registered nurse and worked at the VA after he got back from Vietnam. And his, I've talked to him over the years, and it's a federal bureaucracy, and it's lacked the modernization that all federal bureaucracies lack, because they're based on central planning. And central planning, as far as the economy is concerned, is a great way to fail, and a great way to, business models will say, well, a bureaucracy is the most efficient way to spend money, but it doesn't yield the productivity that the private sector yields because of that aspect of medicine. On the other hand, the whole other part of this, medicine itself, I think, is broken. Big pharma, I mean, there is no money
Well, don't go
in
too
public
far.
use.
We'll get
Yeah.
to pharma here in a second.
Yep.
But
There you go.
that was a great comment. I want to bring it back to Chappie for his thoughts because, not to dwell too long on, the politics of it, but at the end of the day, this is what I would have said. It's a bureaucracy, and we have not been willing as a people to keep our bureaucracies in check. And in going back to your, again, the holistic view and the homeopathic and just the person, and as Tom kind of alluded to, the difference between doctors and nurses. Well, I actually, as the patient, I've met plenty of doctors in my life who actually have that whole person. But then to Chappie's point, what I'm definitely in the VA, but not as much on the civilian side. I see a lot more of the pharmaceutical, and I don't want, so we got to come back to that. But Chappie, what about that whole person view? Because in my humble opinion, you can't have a VA that's willing to take care of the guys and gals who, either, again, just, broken and wrecked on so many levels. If you're not willing to try anything, and without getting into my personal stuff, we'll see if it happens. But I remember being denied water therapy. I'm like, it's the best thing out there. Well, yeah, but we don't support that. Well, then you really don't support the individual. Like instead, and again, you can see I'm already starting to get worked up again. It was like, just take some more pills. I'm like, or I could go do water therapy and I could actually be a better, wholer person again. And then I could meet Chappie on a trail and then continue my journey of making myself better on so many levels, physically and mentally. And those things are not separate, in my humble opinion. Chappie.
I'm going to get you riled up again, Mark. I
Not hard to do tonight, sir.
Yeah, but I want to make this even more existential, because I feel, and I felt this way for the longest time now, that a lot of, and not going off on too much of the tangent, but a lot of the woes, especially within healthcare, as Tom already pointed out, is privatization versus community care. Or not to push the socialism card. It's more about who benefits. And private healthcare, and we've talked about this too, Mark. Private healthcare is good, and it does yield positive results at time, but it also costs a lot of money.
Yep.
And a lot of us, and myself included, and that's why I get VA healthcare, is I can't afford private
if you don't
insurance.
mind, and it just put the politics aside. I hate to say this, sorry to interrupt, but it's also an argument, an economics argument. If so private healthcare, you're saying it costs a whole lot, but and so there's a social political side of that. But on an economic side, any real good economist would say, well, what are the 4 ways to spend your money, and what type of outcome will you get? And what you just described is one. It's the government's money going to a private company. That private company, the moment it's not, your money, you, the consumer, there's not as many constraints. There's not as much economic factors there. So it's a lot more money. So now you can charge way more, and that gets out of control. And that does not by default necessitate better quality healthcare. It just means we're all paying more money because it's the government's money, which is our money. And so even that system in of itself is flawed simply because this is what you're going to get. So in my opinion, and I guess I'll just leave you guys my thoughts, and I'll shut up and you guys can go where you want. It's one or the other. Either there's no VA and it's nothing more than a check issuing facility, or it's the VA, but the VA's got to be right. And if done correctly, kind of what you're saying, Chappie, it actually could be the million times better, and it could actually work, but we're not there yet. So both for social reasons and economic reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great point. And I think if, and I think Tom could probably answer this better as a nurse. It's like, I feel like when people actually go down a career path in healthcare, I think their initial intentions are really good, as far as like, they want to be healers. They want to help people, period, and they're on their darkest day, and my hat is completely off to them. And I think that system grinds people down, and again, I'm never going to fault anyone for trying to support themselves or their families, but to bring this into perspective, we do pay doctors way more than nurses. again, once you get into specialties and everything, it kind of makes sense. But as far as like basic care, that should be on par. And then we also, we can talk about how underpaid other, very crucial services in our community are not well funded or paid, and therefore we suffer as a society. So I think, if you remove, or if we could remove the greed component, that's what I was kind of going with on my last tangent, was if we weren't so, or I should say, if the healthcare industry wasn't so corrupted when it comes to pharmaceuticals, and that being the focal point. If you sell this, you'll get a kickback, or if you do this, you get this. It should be about the person. As Tom said beautifully earlier, it's about being in front of someone personally and giving them your everything, whatever that is, whether it's actual, physiological help, with the medications that you're giving, or if it's just being in the room with them and being that angel on their shoulder on their worst day. That's what healthcare should be. And then if that were the case, they would be looking outside to the community for who else is trying to do the same thing within their community, like, entities like what I do. And you would see that people would actually get better. They would be better productive members of society. And we would see that awful statistic of suicides reducing. And that's what we talked about last time I was on here. And I pray that, within my tenure with the Arizona Trail Association, I'm able to see that number go down. And the legacy of what I'm doing is to prove and insist, really, and demand that services like mine should be made available at every single fucking VA.
Tom, you can either respond to Chappie directly, or you can add to that larger question. But I just want to make one last point. Guys, I'll pull it up while Tom's talking and I'll display it. But seriously, Chappie, Arizona Trail Association, what he's doing out there, I'll pull it up so everybody can see it. But Tom, go ahead and whichever we want to go. But then we're going to come over to the holistic side here in a second.
A couple different things. I think one of the cool things that the VA did do in 2010, in adopting that patient-aligned care teams concept, was it took away all of the management between the healthcare providing team, and what I'm talking about is a clerk, a nurse, a registered nurse, and a doctor. They call that, a PAC team, and the patient, with the patient being at the center of care, because veterans come in waves from wars. So the Vietnam era veterans have different needs because they're in their 70s and late 60s, 70s, some early 80s, and the Gulf War and Afghanistan. They're different. There are a group of veterans, a cohort, so to speak, that have a different group of similar needs, and so not one size administration fits all. And so the beauty of PACT was the capacity to tailor healthcare based on the needs of a particular cohort. And then furthermore from that, one thing that made it, actually gave it the capacity to provide, so the thing about socialized economies is it takes away the incentive for productive capacity. And one of the things that the PACT model did was it tied the health metrics for patient outcomes to funding. In other words, if you had a PAC team where, and depending upon the level of provider you had, if you have like a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant, or a doctor, you had more or less patients. Doctors would have more patients. So a PAC team has like 1,200 patients. If the patient outcome, health outcome metrics showed that your overall patient health metrics were better, in other words, your diabetics were showing improvement in their A1Cs, folks with congestive heart failure weren't in the hospitals often, folks with chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder diseases weren't having to go to the emergency. there would be incentives for that. Therefore, incentivizing a central planning organization, which is revolutionary. And this is the problem, even in private, on the private side, because health insurance companies make a lot of money.
Oh,
And what I always point out is, I think, can't remember if it was the end of Bush or the beginning of Obama, the guy that was the CEO for United Healthcare, the largest healthcare insurance, got fined $422 million, and he wrote a check because his compensation package was like $50 billion it was just insane. I can't remember the business term. They pay CEOs with like shares or something. It was just stupid. And I'm thinking, okay, so the money for profitability in providing health care in the private sector was getting siphoned off by greed. And so the VA model of healthcare.
So just to slow you down, but that's, again, that goes into that economics, when
Yep.
you don't have, when money is being dispersed or used incorrectly, this greed and these things come in, especially when there's no checks and balances. And so,
Yep.
at the end of the day, okay, how do we solve these issues? Well, we all know they exist.
Yep.
And, the difficult thing is, and I don't want to turn this into my, religious perspective of what's going on, but it's evil. It's good versus evil. And evil, unfortunately, has found a nice little area, and it's being allowed to flourish. And then we,
Yep.
the people, because not very many of us are veterans. And matter of fact, I'm sure there's some hardworking SOB out there who's like, what are you guys bitching and moaning about?
Right.
Yeah, I get it. Maybe you're working for a big company and it's all physical labor, and but at the end of the day, you get to go home. I mean, if we want to draw comparisons, which isn't the intent here, but there's even a common ground. Like, yeah, your company should be taking better care of you. You're not cannon fodder either, right? So I think there's some similarities there. Now, Chappie, and Tom. Well, here, I better let you just finish, Tom. I didn't want to make it sound like I was cutting you off, but I do want to start transitioning.
Well, I think the reason I just mentioned the United Healthcare thing is because some people have the idea that insurance companies care about people, and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think the insurance industry or pharmaceutical industry really is that engaged in the well-being of Americans in general and veterans in particular. Because if you've been watching RFK lately, he's out there on the campaign trail talking about chronic illness and what's happened in the last 40 years. And that's mainly insurance companies and big pharma, and it's not working. And so there's got to be a different way to do it.
And on that's a great segue to bring. I didn't think about RFK. I don't know why my brain hadn't thought about that. Like them, dislike them. It doesn't matter. Even if you dislike him and disagree, the questions or the argument he's positing, that he's proposing, the issues he's trying to expose, if you're a rational adult, it's got to at least cause you to take pause and say, hang on a second, maybe there's something to that. Why are there so many plastics in everything we drink? Why are there so many carcinogens? Why are we poo-pooing this one thing over here that humanity's been doing since we think humanity's been around? But then over here, we're trying to do this other shit, and we're running it through trials. We're not even giving it trials. We're highlighting and trying to censor and say, oh, it's classified, and giving top cover. So again, you do your own research. Why are we giving top cover to pharmaceutical companies? They're private companies. They're making billions of dollars. And Tom, to your point, I know, again, this is why you're getting old. I don't remember that exact event, but I remember that event you're talking about. We're like, yeah, the dude just like, yep, it was such a big deal. And, yeah, he just wrote a check and it was done. And then they just moved on, Yep. Yeah. So, Chappie, my comment on that, to turn it over to you, because Tom just threw up a nice softball, and I'd written a note earlier. My thing was pills versus people.
Mm.
And to Tom, I don't want to speak for you, but a lot of what you just kind of said, and just my personal experience, boys and girls, I know some people who watch these lives, who are Centerline Systems customers who've actually told me that some very positive experiences at VAs. And we said this last time, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I hope that's the case for the vast majority of people. I hope I'm the outlier. My personal experience has been pills versus people. It's been bullshit. It hasn't even been medicine. And maybe this won't be the episode. We'll see how much time we have, and I'll tell you my whole song and dance. But Chappie and I have talked about this, and by pills, I'm talking, it's the pharmaceuticals, what we both were, Tom was just alluding to, or very directly talking about, and Chappie was alluding to, the greed, the corporate, and I see it myself. A doctor wants to give me a med. This is why I'm not, one of the issues here, I guess I'll share this one, where I had issues with the VA, and Tom knows what I'm talking about here, because Tom and I have known each other for a long time, and sometimes that has to do in the patient, physician type of in relationship or environment. But I had doctor telling me, oh, that's just that's musculoskeletal. And I'm not an idiot. I'm just looking around. I'm like, based on what? Well, the way you're describing it, like, have we done a single test that backs up your assertion? Because if you're wrong, then I can do the same thing. I'll make up shit too. Well, it could be cardiological. It could be, something to do with my spine, right? Because we already know that I've got some issues going on. Like, it could actually, is this anything to do with ulcers? Is it Lyme's disease? There's a bunch of other things it could be. And I can just as easily as you make up words and say, well, I think it's this. But until you can base it on some definitive medically based, fact, other than just an assertion, well, Mark, what you just described sounds like hay fever. And then you just blow it off as hay fever, and you find out the guy's had a tumor, something like that. And I know that last example may be stretching it, but my personal example is more that, oh, I'm just going to give you some pills. How about we actually identify what's wrong with me? And then if pills are the recourse or part of that solution, we could go down that road. But do we just want to mask it the rest of my life? Or to Chappie, I'm kind of setting you up. Or do we want to try to identify the problem and find holistic, natural ways that are going to help defeat and destroy and make this a better person and the more, whole person approach? Chappie, I know you think we should just prescribe pills, big pharma,
I do. I love it. There is a place for pills. I don't want to, get down too hard on it. And I will just go back, and I've said this to you, Mark, like, I'm so sad that you've had that experience. You didn't deserve it. You don't deserve it. No veteran does. And to that point, I feel like care within the VA is inconsistent. The example I'll give is that the Southern Arizona hospital down here in Tucson with the VA is stellar. It's where I received my care. I've had really good care there. And in fact, Phoenix or Phoenicians come down from Phoenix to Tucson to receive their care, and a lot of things that they do, which is strange to me because Phoenix is much more populated than Tucson. So, back to what you're saying, I think you should fry that fucking doctor. Like, find him, make sure he can no longer diagnose or misdiagnose any other veteran ever again, because it sounds like he's just lazy or whatever. He didn't like you. It was some personal bias. His bullshit responses to you of your symptoms is inconsistent and also, immoral in the healthcare world. So I'm not sure what the incentive was for that asshole to just run you around and make you chase your tail. But
so just on that note,
inappropriate.
The door's open, and you said, fire that guy. That guy shouldn't be a doctor. Tom knows exactly who this person is, but I'm going to add one more story with that guy, and then I'm going to add one more. Matter of fact, it was probably the first of my unfortunate long list of negative stories regarding the VA. So that same individual, look, I'm not medically ignorant, right? I've got a pretty extensive medical background, but it does have a lot to do with combat trauma. So a lot of, some of the things we're talking about, I couldn't probably spot an appendicitis, but I can definitely tell you how to treat that sucking chest wound. So here I am talking to this guy. And now in hindsight, I realized that I had described a stroke in clinical, like perfect clinical terms. Even a first year med student couldn't miss it. And this same doctor we just mentioned here just looked at me and nonchalantly said, well, on your way out, just go ahead and schedule yourself an eye exam. And I'll get back to that later. That was the response. Well, actually, we'll just finish the story. So then I schedule an eye exam. I go see a civilian doctor, do my eye exam. I'm in downtown Duluth. I'm leaving Duluth to go to where my shop is, approximately 30 miles outside of Duluth. And I didn't even make it out of the city. And they were calling me up and telling me to turn around, come back. He'd figure, he was going to figure out a way in the ER so I could immediately go to a CT scan. He's like, yeah, you had a stroke, dude. I'd perfectly described it to a veteran VA doctor who just nonchalantly said, go get an eye exam. 3 months later, when I go take my eye exam, and Tom can talk to this because of the process, I go and finally get my eye exam, and that civilian doctor is turning me around and saying, yeah, dude, you had a stroke somewhere in the not too distant part of your past. You need to get your ass back in here so we can do a CT scan and figure out what's absolutely wrong. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So there you go. You're absolutely right. That guy probably shouldn't be there. And he was more concerned about what time he was getting off work and, the next, golf thing he was doing or whatever his issues were. Or he said, or maybe he just didn't like me. No, I don't like that guy. Mark looks at me funny. But then my very first doctor not my first VA doctor, but I had a bad experience with my first VA doctor, same facility. Tom knows what I'm talking about. A year later, I moved down to the big VA in Minneapolis, hoping it would be better there. That guy just said it was all in my head, and this is when my whole journey first started in the VA. First doctor just constantly forgot to make appointments. I'd see her 6 months later. Hey, how was that appointment? I'm like, I don't know. Did you make it? Oh shit. So it was just total ineptitude. I thought she was a good doctor, but either her or her staff had zero organizational skills. I moved down to the big VA thinking it'll be better there. I'm 6 months into that relationship. And this doctor sends me an email. I'd sent him an email asking a question. And the whole time I'm seeing him, he's trying to send me over to psych. He's saying to me, this is all in my head, all in my head. I sent him an email once asking a question, and he just totally unloads on me. And here's the bad, sad thing. And so everybody can maybe get a sense of where I'm coming from. I can't retrieve that email now. That is one of the only emails in my whole VA history that I can't see. And I've requested it on 2 different occasions. I want that email. I want that transcript. And no one's ever responds to me. No one ever answers my request. And that guy pretty much told me it was all in my head, pound sand. Now, fast forward to that stroke question. Well, okay. So later that summer, I apparently had suffered a stroke and I didn't know about it. Now I'm back to Duluth Superior. I'm seeing a different doctor and it's the wintertime. And that's when he says, go get an eye exam. So that summer previous, I must have had suffered some type of stroke and didn't even know it. And I think I know when it happened because I remember some weird things with my eyesight happening. And that guy said it was all in my head and was just trying to give me like Valium and, an Oxycodone. You're just giving me drugs for it, as opposed to what we're really talking about is looking at it from the whole person and saying, hey man, that's kind of funny. Well, as you're describing this, what about this, this, and this? Do you have any of those symptoms or experiences? Oh, you did? Well, we probably should consider maybe giving you a CT scan. You may have had a stroke, and you're young still. I get that. That's what a doctor will say. But when I'm describing a stroke in near perfection, and then you just nonchalant tell me to go get an eye exam, or when I'm describing chest pains, and now here we are 2 different heart surgeries later, and you're just blowing it off in face of all the potential evidence or not even looking at evidence, that's where I have an issue with the VA. So, and I'm kind of rambling on my little story, but boys and girls, if you're watching this, how can that not leave me with some bitterness in my mouth? I'm in a system that I spent, well, depending if you want to include the CIA, which isn't the army, but it still serves to our country, 30 years of my life. And what I get is people telling me, well, if I don't like it, fuck off and go get civilian health care. I'm like, no. I did my part. Now this is what's due to me. And instead, I just personally feel like I'm just getting shit on left and right. And And my story is nowhere near as sad and heartbreaking as so many other veteran stories out there. And I'm not going to go down that road because I just saw how I must have just, you guys just must have let me just go off the rail for like 10 minutes. We're at 54 minutes right now. I don't know how we're going to keep this to a short live stream tonight, guys. And we haven't even gotten into the heart of it, Chappie.
I know.
I'll shut up right there, but you guys get my point. And this isn't a woe is me. And I didn't even give you the real details. There's other things that are still going on. Tom knows them. Chappie knows them.
Let me chime in, dude.
Right.
I think you should stop qualifying this story, Mark. You need to tell it. Stories need to be told, because if you stick with it and then no one else knows what your experience was, then that's where that status quo happens. And I know you don't want to be the squeaky wheel. Veterans don't want to make a big stink, but in essence, we need to unionize in some ways, because until we get the point across that the care that we're receiving is subpar and it could be location dependent, doesn't matter. We need to make sure that those individuals that are just leeching off the system and getting a paycheck and not really doing their fucking job, they need to get out and maybe join the privatized sector of healthcare and get individuals like Tom, like my partner Celeste. She just became a nurse, and she's going to run a fucking hospital someday. I'll just throw that out in the universe now, because she is so good at her job. She's already getting praise from higher ups. The docs love her because and it's not like this magic recipe. It's because she gives a shit. It's because she cares.
Yeah.
Because she puts everything she has into her job. And that's what healthcare should look like, period. And I know it's tedious. I know, someone on the other end of this conversation could say, well, you don't know what it's like. And you're right. I did work in healthcare for a period of time as a technician, but I am, there's a reason why I'm not doing it anymore. It was hard. But this was after service, and I couldn't watch people die. That was my problem. I just didn't have it within myself to care for someone and watch them decline and pass. I don't want to get into story too much because you guys can resonate with this, I think, but it has to, everything to do with my service to my country. But to go on and pass this along to more, I guess, a different aspect of this conversation that we had agreed to is that what we can do for ourselves, for our veterans in our space, and what's now become less, demonized and essentially criminalized, is medical cannabis, psilocybin, MDMA, ayahuasca, you name it. All the ceremonies out there that are helping to rewire our traumatic and injuries, whatever that was for us, and become.
And don't forget, yours doesn't. Hang on, your drug doesn't have a name except nature. That I think that needs to fall in that same category.
It's more like it is, but it's more like a church, like a temple, like a place that you go to celebrate life. It's more of an environment. Think of like nature as being the building, but some of us need. Like you talked about, people versus pills. People inside of that building, in my opinion, can be those alternative medicines as well. But as far as like creating a healthy and safe space for people, that's what I do. And then nature kind of takes care of itself, like and whoever wants to engage with it. I think that's the healing process. It's almost like this invisible barrier that you don't really see, taste, touch, or smell. It's more like once you're in it, and you're not influenced by what's going on around you. You don't have a screen in front of your face, and you're just there, and you can just be. That's the medicine. That's when you know that it's working, and you feel better afterwards. I'll ask anyone on this channel right now that's watching this who doesn't feel better after spending a few hours or minutes or seconds or days immersed in nature. And I think that is, again, I want to like create a following, thank you, Mark, of disciples that already know this. It's not like a state secret, but we have to tell the masses and the people in power as it is that, we want to have these kinds of services where you have professionals like myself that absolutely look at healthcare through a lens of in alternative spaces, and taking veterans into those spaces safely and making them and finding, gaps within healthcare that's already being provided that, as we just discussed ad nauseum, doesn't work very well.
Well, and you know, and that last thing, we kind of went back to focusing on the, you know, people versus pills. I want to be able to come back to Tom, but Chappie, we're not going to be able to do this time, but I want to come back to you to sit and talk about the alternative medicine still. And Tom, maybe you set this up. I mean, because I know you've got some thoughts on that as well. And, you know, and alternative medicine, you know, just like the term preparedness or self-reliance has a negative connotation. Why and in what world would self-reliance and preparedness have a negative connotation? Like taking care of your family and being prepared for natural disasters or war or famine, that's being prepared, and that's a bad thing. Following nature and what nature has demonstrated, you know, over the millennium, that this works, but we don't want to do it because instead, you know, and somebody already made the comment. Yeah, there it is, Brandon. And Brandon, to your point, you know, I've been offered oxycodone based drugs more than I have an actual test to try to identify why don't we just give you I'm like, and they always try to give you the pharmaceutical name, and I don't do well with that. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to hear, you know, it's Cylindra or whatever. Hey, don't anybody sue me. I'm just saying names of drugs. I mean, what is the actual drug? Is that, you know, metoprolol, clopidogrel, you know, rosuvastatin? What is that? Oh, that's this. I'm like, hey, that's an oxycodone based, you know, pharmaceutical. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, no. I'd rather have another glass of wine than start doing oxy. Are you fucking kidding me? So Tom, yeah. I mean, but you know, you can see where you could respond where you want, but I want to get it back up to Chappie here. You know, we could sit and talk for the next 3 hours. If Chappie and I have our way, it could be a 3-hour conversation.
It's true.
What's your schedule here? Did you want to go for more than an hour, or what's?
Well, we're trying to keep these lives at an hour, but I'm here to tell you, as I said earlier, just killing time. These aren't going to be the live streams per se anymore. I mean, if I can get everybody to do it as a live stream, and that's so. This is kind of the last of the. Good question, Tom. And if you don't mind, I'll just. Oh. This thing isn't going away from me. Veterans Affair and how we're treating our veterans. That's the hill I'm willing to plant my flag on in this next chapter. You know, thank God I have it, you know, of my life. It's worth talking about. And this is a worthy cause. And you guys are great individuals. And I feel very fortunate to be able to have conversations about my journey with you two guys from your perspectives. So long story short, we're going to do this again, Tom. It'll be under that, you know, after hours thing I was talking about. So maybe, you know, you and Chappie are only available on a Tuesday. We'll shoot this on a Tuesday, but then I'll show it on a Saturday or something like that. But, sure. But generally I want to keep these about an hour, you know, and I know I can be long in the tooth, and that's not making it easy for you guys. But, you know, we're going to go a little bit late, but let's not do an hour and a half. Let's just kind of keep it short, because we're going to do this again as long as you guys are willing to come on, because I already know the next time we do this, we're starting hard and fast, right where Chappie and I kind of thought we were going to go. That's where we're going to start the next time.
Okay. Well, here's just my one thing on you know, the holistic view outside of the VA. I'll say this is a society. We are not getting out in the woods, and, you know, the Creator made us to be in the creation. And I did scouting with my 4 kids, and people just don't spend any time. They sit on the couch or they watch their phone, and it's killing people.
Yeah,
they're fat.
Tom, sorry to say, as a society, we talk poorly. We talk down about people who hunt and fish and camp and hike. As a society, we denigrate those people today.
Yep. Yeah, they're not seen as I'm not really sure if it's a class thing or an intellect thing, but it is bad for the human soul to not connect with creation. And I'm not talking about, you know, worship, you know, creation worship. I'm just saying we're meant to be active, to be engaged and moving. And when we stop doing that, when we sit and look at a screen, when we just eat junk food or take pills, it kills us. We're not meant to eat that stuff, and we're not meant to sit around and be inactive. And that's why we're sick.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Amen.
why
And again,
sick.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about who's benefiting for us, from us, I should say, when we ingest these things. We have screens. These cost money. We eat shit food. That costs money. It's a little less expensive, but it's more expensive to eat healthy, to eat fresh. It's by design. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think we've slowly integrated these poisons and these modalities into our lives that have essentially corroded think about, you just said it, spending time outside. Does that cost anything? I mean, maybe to get there, but then you're there and it's free. There's no upcharge. There's no hidden fee. It is just what it is, what you need it to be. Hunting, fishing. I just wanted to touch on that. A lot of people think that in the trails community that we poo-poo all of that, even like there's like this dichotomy between those two elements, between the hunters, anglers, and recreators. I disagree fully, because they are doing it just the same way we are, just adding an extra few elements to it. And it's a necessary thing. Like, we need to provide those services, healthy alternatives, again, to finding ways to get people outdoors. Hunting, you have to buy a tag. It's not like you just go out and shoot a wild animal in your backyard. You have to go get a tag. You need a license to go fishing. So there's a little bit of money, taxation, right? But it's the same thing. You are doing something that is relatively less expensive than eating, fast food every day, or sitting on your ass in front of a screen for hours on end. None of that was in the design of how we are made. So we're intertwined and interconnected with nature, with our natural environment. And I'll just say this, and then I can toss it back. But I'm a big lover, and I have been since I had my son, of the book The Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, right? And it's true, because these spaces get to play in with veterans are free for now. They're public, but until we get someone that says, well, it's not really being used, so why can't we just reclaim this for some sort of industrial purpose? And I know that's a different conversation, but it is in that same vein that we need to revere our natural spaces and spend more time with them and find more ways to interact with them than just letting them stay stagnant and under appreciated. So I'll just leave it with that.
Hey, Tom, I'm just going to interject really quickly with a personal story about me and you from the hunting, the bow. Can I tell a story without, we didn't really clear it ahead of time? All right. So where Tom and I first met each other. So I'm an avid bow hunter. And when I came back here after the agency, out on family property, working property, and getting back into bow hunting. And so I'd fallen in with this guy, I'd kind of met him, and it was part of an organization with the goal of using bow hunting as an opportunity to get veterans out in the woods for everything we're just talking about, right? For that holistic, for their mental health, their physical health. And Tom happened to have a piece of property, and we, this other gentleman had kind of come into contact with Tom, and Tom was letting us use some of his property, or the property he was managing, to get these guys out in the woods. And sometimes it was guys in wheelchairs, and we had set up special hunting locations for them. But I remember one of the hunts I did out where Tom was, and it was a guy. So Chappie, to your point, and then turn it over to Tom. He didn't care about the hunting aspect. He, a former infantry guy, just like me, he just wanted to get out there and stalk. And if it worked out perfectly, he would have taken the deer. But it was more about just bringing that part of his ethos and his background and his history back out there to help him, and being out in the woods and stalking, just being in that stealthy mode, as a apex predator, that was doing some wonders for him. And Tom was able to kind of set that up. That was actually, Tom, of all the hunts I did out there, that was probably the best one, because, we even where Tom is, there's some terrain features and stuff. And me and this guy set up on this, kind of pseudo cliff, with a nice trail below, and just went into patrol base activities, and that guy was just, Chappie, to your point. I see you smiling, dude. It was doing so many wonders for his soul. Didn't care if we saw a deer. He didn't give a shit. No, that wasn't the point.
I'll bring it. I hate to bring it back to me, but part of what I do is I take veterans out on the trail with the mindset of doing maintenance and building, uh, the actual Arizona National Scenic Trail. But when you get to where we're going, I have a whole speech, and I'll like preface this, but essentially the idea is not really making productivity the priority. It's about being there,
Yeah.
being like you just said, just being immersed in whatever it is, whether it's stalking, whether you're casting on some shoreline with a beer in your hand, or if you're not a drinker and you're just you love making flies and just picking the right whatever midge or bugger or whatever they're called, and throwing that into the water and just watching it glide across the water. I think it's really about the act of, to your point. And so getting to wherever we're going is really the priority, and then having a good time is the second, and then priority is like a distant fourth or fifth on that list. But ultimately, once I remove that expectation, like all we're out there is to bust our ass. It is hard, don't get me wrong, but once I remove the element of expectation, they start to really gain, I think, a sense of like, this is why I'm here. And I think that is, leads to your point to you weren't really expecting to get a buck or whatever you were hunting. You just were enjoying the hunt itself.
Yep. Yeah, and that the hunt itself brought him back to what his life had been and whatever infantry unit he had served with and whatever he had seen or experienced. And he just needed to find, because he had no other outlets in his life, living in an urban environment. He needed some way to get out there and still find whatever that thing was. And you're not going to get that in a pill. That's got to come from nature. Well, maybe you could get that in a pill, but it's not oxycodone or whatever the VA wants to give you. Tom, we're at an hour and 10. Let's bring it to you. Final comment. Bring it back to Chappie. Final comment, and then we'll wrap it up. And I just want to say thanks to everybody watching tonight. No one has a script here, and but I'm here to tell you, when we do this the next time. Right. Well, I definitely don't have one, and if I did, I'm really bad at keeping it.
Go off the rails.
Yep,
that's why I love doing this with you, Mark.
But I think the next time is going to be really off the rails, so just stay tuned. So I'll wrap up with that. So Tom, final comments, sir?
I just think it's great for people to stay engaged. The issues that are before us are huge. And as men and women that are veterans, we need to stay engaged in the process. You got to contact folks. Like I was talking to Mark about the congressman in Wisconsin's 3rd district, longest serving veteran in the U.S. Congress, Derek Van Orden. Guy is on fire for veterans issues. He's doing the job, and we just need to support. How can I say, positive changes? If we don't engage, and we don't have conversations, and we just forget to think about what's true and good and successful, then we're going to lose it. So, what's that you always say, Mark, with your business? Keep moving,
keep thinking, keep moving, never quit.
Yeah, that's it. Right? Got to do that. So, thanks for having me on, guys.
Well, hey, don't go anywhere yet. You are not you're not relieved of you're not
duty.
Yeah, you're not relieved, sir. You have to stay here for a couple minutes. All right, Chappie, bring it over to you. But before we do, Tom,
final thoughts.
Well, hang on. Before you bring it to your thoughts,
okay.
Just because this might add to your thoughts. Tom just made me think of something with his comments, and I was writing it down. So this episode, this conversation we've had here tonight, for me personally, this is part of the medicine, kind of going into what I think Chappie might talk about. Because Chappie kind of scolded me earlier, and he's correct. Hey, Mark, you got to man up and start telling the story. And I wrote this down. I wrote down, I feel a little better just starting. I feel a little better just starting to talk about this stuff. Chappie,
Dude, why you got? I love how you set me up, Mark. This is. I love that we can have these conversations because that's truly, to your point, how we are going to heal collectively. Because if we're silent, and to Tom's point, if we don't use not just our right as veterans, but as citizens of this country, and we do not use our voice in a productive way, if we don't vote, if we don't speak to our leadership, and those that actually have the ability to make change, then shut the fuck up, because you're part of the problem. You're not, you're like you said earlier, why are you making comments on something and not providing anything constructive with the criticism? There has to be a balance to everything. So in your, going back to you, Mark, like, I don't claim to be a therapist. I think I have tendencies and I think I have the ability, but I also think that what we do in my line of work is therapeutic. And part of it, not to like make it clinical, but it's talk therapy. We are finding ourselves in a place of safety, or you feel comfortability around others to actually share part of yourself. And that is healing. That is cathartic in a lot of ways, because it helps us, believe that we're not alone in the world. And again, going back to my first statements was about, we are a communal species. We love to be around each other, even though times like this, it doesn't seem like that. But we also, when we find our people, when we can feel comfortable around people, we tend to treat them like family. We tend to look at them like family. So I don't know if you want, final comments now or later, if you want me to roll into that, but
well, we're at an hour 15. I mean, yeah, why not? Because
right.
Well, here, hang on. If you guys want, then let me just read comments from people who are watching live.
Sure.
And then let's give you guys outro comments. Because my outro comment is going to be right now. We're going to do this again, boys and girls. Chappie, Tom, awesome human beings taking time out of their day. We'll figure this out. Again, my whole format going forward is going to be a little different, but we're going to figure this out, because I'm here to tell you my pledge, whether you're like, oh, Mark, I just want to watch gear videos. Okay, well, then don't watch these videos. But this is part of who I am. Centerline Systems is a huge part of who I am. And so this ain't going away. I'll just have to figure out where I tuck this in with the format going forward. So here's and I love everybody leaving comments. And normally I read them a couple times during the live stream. We didn't have a chance to do that tonight. I was flapping my gums a little too much. And hey, Chappie. And let's not tell everybody why. We'll save that for the next
surprise it. All right.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to get ready for what we were going to do. So, so anyway, on a different note, but here's what we got: comments, and then I'm going to bring it to Chappie and Tom for their final comments. Then we'll close it up, boys and girls. Brandon, sounds like God's terrain is medicine. Amen, brother. I mean, I don't disagree with that. Gene from across seas. I think we need a part 2 with alternative medicines, please. Well, there you go, brothers. I mean, Brandon coming back. It shouldn't be called alternate medicine, just medicine. Yeah, damn right. Why is it alternate medicine? Because big pharma doesn't get rich off it. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. And then Gene is agreeing with you, Brandon. Gene, who's from overseas. Yeah, yes, sir, you are correct. Brandon chiming in with a couple here at the end, just taking it out, getting it ready. We are the weird ones these days. It was with a comment from about 10 minutes ago. But I'm not sure what the comment was, Brandon, but you're right. If you're watching this show, you are one of the weird ones. We are the weird ones nowadays. Brandon then saying he's going to be in the Michigan woods for opening day for his yearly reset. And that's what it is for a lot of guys, just getting on the woods and resetting. 2 weeks makes his entire mental state stable again. F&A right. F&A right. And then he says, whether you harvest or not, that's not the point. The point is getting out in the woods. And then Angry Viking Veteran, late, but checking in. You might have to go back and watch this one, AVV, and then we'll see you on the next one. I got a feeling you would have been chiming in with some commentary. All right. That's it, except for my last little outro. So whichever one of you guys wants to go first, let's do final comments and kind of wrap tonight up. Boys and girls watching, I will just say this. I love these guys, and this was not the intent. This is not the direction I thought I was going to be able to direct it tonight. This is just where it went. So we're going to do a part 3, a part 4, a part 5, because they're all going to be a little different. This just went in the direction it went, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let's bring it over to Tom and Chappie, whoever wants to take us out.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, boy, we did cover a lot of different spots tonight. I just am wholly devoted to health as a non-pharmacological standpoint. I think that it's just important for me personally, and as a nurse, to guide people to do the basic things, to exercise, to get involved in a community that's spiritually based, and just reconnect with all the truthful, simple things that give us health. Good rest, good exercise, good nutrition, and good community. I mean, that's just the bottom line for what I think is a healthy life. And if you do those things, like, I think Aristotle said, let food be thy medicine. There's a lot of great things that can come out of that. And, VA has some good things and some bad things. And like I said earlier, got to stay engaged, got to keep thinking, keep moving, keep in the fight. So, yeah, have a good one.
Hey, don't leave.
I'm not leaving. I'm
okay,
just done.
All right. Well, you kind of, hey, but that was a great little 3-sentence thing. Good exercise. Did you say good exercise, good food, and good community? Is that what you said?
Yeah, and you got to get sleep too. You got to get a decent.
Well, if you've got good exercise, you're going to get good sleep, because exercise.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a great fucking t-shirt right there, Tom. That's a great bumper sticker. Yeah,
I'd rock it. Rock it.
Chappie,
Love
what
it.
do you got?
Yeah.
Sir?
So it's hard to follow Tom, because I'll just say that listen to the Centerline Systems designated nurse. Tom is wise. Eat well, sleep well, work out, exercise. Everything else will probably fall into place. Man, we did cover a lot, and I was hoping it would go obviously in some other directions. But I just want anyone that's like watching or listening is that I feel like this is now maybe part of Mark's journey of going from maybe just a man on the periphery, and I think he's now bringing his stories to his business, which I think is so brave and bold and courageous. And I'm so stoked and excited to be there for it. And he's trusting Tom and I to help with that experience. So I really do hope all of you tune in for the future episodes that come, because I'll just say they're going to get interesting. So with that, I'll just say that, again, to reiterate, I could not agree more that we need better alternatives or better medicine. We'll just, because I'll go with what Brandon said, and we shouldn't just consider it just alternative. It should just be medicine, point blank, period. Yeah. And being outdoors, in my mind, is the perfect prescription. I did.
Hey, and if you don't mind, Chappie, this doesn't take away. I think this adds to your comment. And I didn't think about this until you said, like being outside, it's just such a strong medicine. So one half of my family, now I'm not Native American. One half of my family is Native American. I'm not going to say exactly who, but just last night I was having this conversation, and they were talking about native beadwork and how just even getting back into beadwork was having this physiological effect on some of the things, that the symptoms and the problems that they're going through. So because that's still nature. It's your brain, your hands. So so people don't think we're just sitting here saying, granola crunchy, hug a tree, which you actually probably should do. Trees are pretty badass. But all of those different types of tasks, Chappie, that's all I'm trying to set you up, is it could be anything, as long as it's not, like you said, dude, we're doing too much of this shit.
I know. I can't tell you how many times I've been around other veterans doing what I do, and they just wish they could go back to summer camp, for those that had the summer camp experience. So we want summer camp again. And for those of you that went to summer camp, or were lucky enough, like myself, a part of it, arts and crafts were part of it. Bead making, necklace making, friendship bracelet making. It's all part of it, because it's something you're doing with your hands. If you're obviously in an outdoor space doing it, all the better. But I'll just go back to this. A lot of a lot of what I do, especially with the ATA, we honor and celebrate the fact that all the trails that we're walking on were obviously not ours to begin with. They were, obviously nature's the creator, and then those that were here first, made those trails or made those their network. And so we honor the fact that there's like at least 7 or 8 major tribes that reside within Arizona that have contributed to the success of that trails community. So, when you talk about bead making, we actually have the Santa Rita Mountains down in southern Arizona, where they are famously known for the Tohono O'odham people made baskets. So they were the basket weaving clan or tribe. So, bead making, basket weaving, anything artisan, they weren't doing that inside of a living room, even though that's cool if you do it now. But I'm just saying, like, they were very connected and using these things to adorn themselves, like beads, but also had a very utilitarian function within the tribe. So yeah, dude, all of it is good. All of it makes sense. I forgot where I was going, but I feel like I wanted to plug one thing for the program, for those of you that are interested in what I'm doing out there. Some of you may know who tuned in last time, I lost a veteran over the summer, and it hurt really bad, and it struck a big chord and really solidified the mission for myself and what I'm doing for work. So I was lucky enough to partner with Coconino National Forest up in northern Arizona over National Public Lands Day. I hope you all got outside during that day, because that's basically when national parks and forests and everything, all the fees are waived and you can go for free for military members. But I was lucky enough to have a PR person come out and shoot some video of us on the trail, as well as interview some of us. And unprompted, I think I'll plug Danica. She's the one from the Coconino PR team that made the video. She did a fantastic job. And if anyone really just wants to, understand more about what we do and why we're doing it, is really to the point, please go and find that video. It's on YouTube. It's on our page under the VETS program on the ATA's website. And you can certainly just reach out and I can send you the link directly. But it really drives home why we're doing what we're doing. And it probably extends even further, and could be seen through a lens of, because, I feel like a lot of people go, well, you're going out and you're just, playing in dirt and you're just, making trails. It's so much more than that. And I'll leave it at that. And I'll just ask every one of you that is listening tonight, just say thank you first and foremost to Mark and Tom, and also all of you out there that are bearing with us on this unscripted tangent on the VA healthcare and all the pros and cons and whatnot, but also the fact that you are still sticking around. You're here. You're part of this community. Go outside, play in the dirt, or fly fish, or whatever your thing is. Go stalk. Go find time to be outside, please, and try and get involved where you can, and be an advocate in whatever aspect that you feel comfortable in. And that's where I'll stop.
All right, that's dude, it may be unscripted, but if you're watching this and listening to it, and again, if you think this is political, and if you think we're all a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing whatever's, then why are you still watching this video? I mean, like, just move on. Just move on. As Elon Musk said, go fuck yourself. Just move on, right? Hey, Tom, I've got to share 2 more things that I kind of forgot. And so again, to everybody, I apologize. These are not scripted. I'm not very good at the scripted. Not even very good at just pulling shit out of my 4th point of contact. But we definitely have an objective. We're getting there. And so I'm going to be doing more of these. Tom actually is trying to put me in touch with an actual politician. I didn't have a chance this week to reach out to them. I'm going to reach out to them. Maybe we'll get that politician. Maybe we'll get a spokesperson. It's like the person in the Pusillanimir, we're all going to throw tomatoes at them because they're a politician. But if they're brave enough to come on. But then the last thing I wanted to share here while we're still on board, all of us, so you guys can say what you want. I want to highlight 2 other organizations that I have done work with. One organization on the charity side and one organization on the personal side. And I want to share that. So if you guys want to just talk about whatever you want to do, let me just bring these guys up, because I'm going to try to get these guys. I'll do the first one first. We've had 23rd Veteran on before in one of our podcasts. Mike came on for about 5 minutes, talked about his organization, how they're helping to try to prevent and using nature and physical fitness to try to prevent veteran suicide. Tom, Chappie, either you guys want to kind of talk about that and the merits of that as opposed to oxycodone?
Tom?
Anybody? Tom, you're on mute. You're on mute, sir.
I don't think he can hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me. Okay.
All right. I'll chime in. Yeah. I mean, I've been rambling, so I will say that last live stream was great, having Mike on and learning about his program, and the fact that you're so passionate about it and supporting it just is commendable. And it's good to know, from a programming side of things, that I'm not alone. I mean, I know I'm not alone, but it's great to see that there are other organizations out there that are pushing for this type of healthcare or connection, camaraderie, community, and really addressing the elephant in the room, and not so much anymore because we're talking more and more about it these days, is the mental health aspect of not just what happens when we serve, when we come back, the transition, but also where we can find ways to bring that suicide rate down. And Mike's doing a fantastic job. I would love to go out there and get in on one of those programs.
I'm going to try to get him back on again at some day in the future. And then I don't know if you're familiar with these guys, Chappie. I'm trying to bring them up right now and post that. There we go. So if you're a veteran and if you're getting kind of the shaft or feel like you're getting the shaft, I've got two things on the screen. This is where I'm going to end it. Tom, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. You're still probably on mute, but I kind of want to hear your guys' comments. This will be the final outro. But VA Guardian, Veterans Guardian, and that White House line. It's not really to the White House, that they just call it that. For me personally, I wish I would have known about this. And I just talked to somebody the other day about retirement. No one briefed me. I didn't get my retirement briefing was for shit. No one really tried to help me. And this should be out there for all vets. So I'm just going to end it on my side. Like, these are two great organizations that if I wouldn't have known about them, I would probably be, and I'm not even, this is not a figure of speech, and this will come up in the next live stream, I probably would be dead. I mean that seriously. If left to the VA and what they wanted to do, that would have resulted in my death. Calling this number and filing a complaint got the action necessary to have a real doctor take a look at things, and that prevented my death. I'll go into more details on the next time. And the Veterans Guardian, because I just get the sense that they really want you to die, so they don't have to give you any benefits. It's easier if you just die and here's a plot, here's your little tombstone, piss off, right? That's a little bit of a negative thing to end it on. I didn't mean it ended on that type of thing. Let me just stop sharing. But those are two great resources that are out there that most of us don't know about. And so what if we can do this, Chappie and Tom, going forward? I also want to make this a venue. And for anyone watching, whether you're with us live or if you watch us on demand, leave comments, share some resources. I've had some great people reach out and say, hey, your veterans rep might suck up there, but I've got a really good one down here. Even though he's not from your state, he might be willing to help you out and move you in a. That's what it's all about. Community, trying to figure things out and try to make this actually start working, as opposed to the horror stories of how broken it is. That's my final comment right there. You guys get last goodbyes and then we're done. Tom's just looking all like serious and stern.
Can you hear us, Tom?
Can you hear us, Tom? All right, Chappie, I think Tom is dead to us right now. I don't think he can hear us. God,
I think Tom skipped to the next the next live stream. Anyway, that's hilarious. I think I've said what I needed to, Mark. I think I don't want to leave it on a negative note. So I will say that,
no, that's why I want you to end it. Let's
to put the cherry on top. Well, I'll just say this, again, just to reiterate that it's absolutely crucial that no matter where you are on the spectrum of advocation, the only way that we get the grease is to be squeaky. is to talk about what what the problems are. And we have to do it in a constructive way, because if we're just shouting into the void, nothing's going to happen. So we have to get organized in a way that is actually going to be heard. And I'm not saying this because I feel like politicians will actually be more inclined, but I'll leave it with this. I have a mentor within my work. He is an amazing public speaker. He's also great in front of politicians. And I asked him, after, like, he's very passionate, very articulate. And when we're done and I go, where do you think this is actually going to go? And he just says, Chappie, think of it like a forest. A forest has to grow when, it's a slow process. So all I'm doing is I'm throwing seed balls into the forest. I'm just trying to get something to germinate. So your commentary, it may not make sense with one person, 12 people, 100 people, but that one individual that you keep speaking your truth to, speaking, it's going to resonate with one of them. And it might be that puzzle piece that was missing for their mind to go, oh shit, I really need to do something about this. But if you're quiet, if you're silent, if you're angry and silent, it's even worse. And I think that's where that slippery slope is. So find your community first and foremost. Find a way to use your voice as best as you can. And ultimately, and I'll shut up now. I'll say that there has to be balance with everything, and we obviously want to see change. And so you have to dedicate part of your life, your soul, your energy to that. But you also need to make time for yourselves. And so again, I'll bring it back to just making sure that all of you that are listening and watching and are commenting, that you take time to balance. As I think one of the commenters said earlier, is to recenter every day as often as you can, so you can recharge for that next battle, if you will.
All right. As we wrap it up, boys and girls, thank you again so very much for staying with us and watching this. And if you watch us on demand, my humble request, if you can, share this with anyone who is either a veteran themselves, or the wife or the husband or the son or the daughter, the father, the mother of a veteran, and share it with your local politicians, because if we have a chance, it's got to start here. Maybe it could start someplace else, but it's got to start somewhere. And how are we going to take care of our citizenry if we don't take care of those who are willing to take care of us? So that's kind of one of my final comments. And then, Chappie, to your point right there, it's like, at the end of the day, you can, oh, Mark, you're a tree hugger. Yeah, maybe I am. And maybe I always was, but I did that shit, and that still resonates. And there's something, whether you want to call it magical or forceful, but there's something real about what we're talking about. And we all know it. And we just have to, and boys and girls, some of this might make a little bit more sense the next time we do the live stream, because then Chappie and I can talk about a couple other things that we didn't get to talk about tonight. So just stay tuned. That's all I'm saying. But that's real, and that's honest, and that's what we need to do. So Chappie, God bless you. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Tom, are you with us now? Can you hear us anymore? Are you?
Yeah, I can.
Oh,
hear
you
you.
can
hear us now?
Yeah.
Oh, Chappie, Tom's alive. That's just not
Hey,
like
Tom. Welcome back.
Dude, we could see you. We were asking you questions. You kept moving the phone around. We thought you were like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't. I just lost audio. For some reason tonight, my computer would not, even though I had Google Chrome up, it would not allow me to do it. So I've been working with my phone, and it's kind of maybe
Well,
not.
it's glad to have you back.
Yep.
Kind
Thanks.
sir.
Yeah.
It's glad to have you back at the very end when we're saying goodbye. Thanks for
Yep.
coming back. All right, we're going to say goodbye a little bit longer. We're going to do these more. Stay tuned. Again, thanks to everybody out there who watched, listened, and I hope something one of the three of us said resonates with you and gets you to start thinking about it from a slightly different perspective. And and maybe that's from a perspective of being angry. Like, look, and this is what you need to have. Chappie's been a calming effect. Tom's been a calming effect. I'm pretty freaking angry. When I tell you my story, you're going to understand why I'm angry. But it's nice to have those other things that bring you down a little bit. But But there's also nothing wrong with being angry. If that's what gets you off the couch and gets you motivated to get out there and start doing shit, then get fucking angry. But at the end of the day, just get healthier, get better. That's what we're trying to talk about. All right, Chappie, Tom, anything?
I'm good. Thank you,
All right.
brother.
All right, I'll give you guys a holler in a little bit on the after action review. To every boy and girl out there who watched tonight's video, again, on demand or the live stream, we really appreciate it. God bless each and every one of you. And if you're a veteran, if you're one of those idiots like us, those romantics, those idealists, you know, well, God bless you. But yeah, let's just make this, we got to make this different. We got to make this work. I don't know. That was a horrible outro. Somebody help me out. That was bad.
That was great. What are you talking about?
No,
It's
that was
real,
so
dude.
corny.
Real
That was
talk.
corny.
Good
That was
shit.
corny. That was corny.
Yeah, I love corny. Give it to me. Give me the Nicholas Sparks outro.
Hey, I live in Minnesota, not Iowa. No, I don't have enough corn. I don't have enough corn. All right, we'll see everybody next Thursday for Halloween night. It's going to be a short, I say it all the time, but it is going to be, well, maybe it'll be a long live stream. I don't know, but it's going to be a fun one, a possible giveaway. Put on a costume, pour yourself a drink. I'm going to be wearing a costume. I'll have some Halloween-y stuff, and I'll have more information on what November, December, and the way forward is going to look like. And this isn't the end of this by any stretch of the imagination. So stay tuned, and we'll continue moving forward with this. So I really appreciate everybody being here tonight, especially to Chappie and Tom. Seriously, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I'll give you guys a call in about 5 minutes after I start rendering this for the after action review. Sound good?
All right, brother.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Everybody else, you guys have a great evening. And remember, no matter where you are, keep thinking, keep moving, and never fucking quit. We'll talk to you again soon. Be good. Woo!